Hi everybody, this is Belinda from Belinda's Book Nook, and today I'm here to do a reading wrap up for the month of April. I almost said March. I'm like way off. And it'll also be kind of like my Friday reads too, because I know I'll babble about something else outside of the scope of what I'm supposed to be talking about. So for April, I finally decided I was going to do this video today because the reason why I say that is because I had two books that I was trying to squeeze in on April, and I have them in my book journal. So when I put them in here, I really try to commit to them, unless sometimes they are some that I have DNF'd, and so I just write why I didn't do it or just don't write anything in it. But there's two books that I wanted to read, and I just didn't get to do them, and I was trying to push it, and then I was like, you know what, I have other things I want to read this month, and I will try to fit them in with this month, or it just doesn't happen. But I'm not going to hold myself, feel bad about it. So we'll talk about those in the end, because we're going to talk about the good things first, and then we'll we'll cover why I failed on trying to read an additional couple more books. So the first one, oh, I didn't pull it up on here. The first one we'll talk about is the one that I read for the Read So Lit book club. And I'm going to apologize now that I'm going to have to drink water because my throat is definitely saying things to me. So, all right, so let me give you the cover of the book. I can already feel it in the back of my throat, kind of tickly. Anyway, the first book is called Wild, Beautiful, and Free by Sophronia Scott, and that is the cover of it. Hopefully you can see it. I am telling you, I'm really enjoying this book club. I had hesitated, I told you before, not to do it, just because I feel bad when I can't commit to reading the books that I want to read, you know, that our people are selecting and stuff. And so I didn't want to like let anybody down and be like, oh, I'm a member, but I'm not really showing up. So I'm really happy. So far, I've read everything that we've gotten. I probably will miss some maybe in the summer because summer gets kind of busy, and we'll see. But I'm going to try to read as many of them this year as I can. So this one was selected. Dee Dee selected this one, and because in typical months, I think we always vote for them. I think this one she wanted to put in there because she had read the previous book by this author, and definitely wanted to squeeze it in. So she just put it in for this month. The book follows this character. Oh gosh, let me get the names. See if I have the names written down here, because one thing I didn't do is I didn't write all my reviews in here yet, so I don't even have my cheat notes to kind of see. Jeanette Bibin is the main character of this story, and it follows her, and she is the product of a slave and her master, who impregnated her, an enslaved woman. And her mother dies during childbirth, and so she is left with her father to raise her. And you know, we know in history, in certain instances, even if they were fathered by the slave master, they weren't given any rights or treated any different. But in the case of this story, he really, you know, seemed to have had cared for her mother and really cares for her. And so you see how he's doting on her. And I'm going to also say before I continue, because anybody wants to fast forward, I don't think I'm going to give any spoilers on this. I'm going to try to avoid them. Yeah, I'm just thinking in my head ahead before I want to say things to make sure I don't spoil things. So anyways, it follows this character and her, she lives in the house with the slave master, and his name is Gene, and his wife and his daughter Callista. And obviously the wife does not really care for Jeanette because obviously she's a product of her husband sleeping with one of the enslaved people. And so the mother doesn't, you know, they call her Madam in the book. She doesn't, you know, obviously care for Jeanette, and it shows. Callista, on the other hand, is just smitten and just loves her sister and wants to play with her and be with her and protect her and all that. So they have a really interesting relationship. And then the story follows basically Jeanette, when I won't say anymore because that will give more of a clue, but it follows her through this story where we get a little bit of a love story, a little bit of like historical fiction with regards to the war. And I would say, because I don't want to say any more without spoiling different things, we discussed the book, I really love the discussions with the book club because we really dive into, aspects of the story, what we like, what we were kind of taken aback. But one of the things that I had raised and a couple other people had mentioned with regard to the story was that I kept bracing myself for some type of trauma to occur. I've not read any slave narratives or books that have slavery in it that I didn't read something that was traumatic. And this book was not that, in the sense that there was no brutality that was up in your face and things like that. So at the end, I kind of was unsure about how I should feel about the book because I'm like, I don't want it to polish over or gloss over what occurred. But one of the things that, when we were discussing it and I realized is that there are many stories to tell. There isn't just one story to tell and one type of story. There's many, many, many stories. The concept in this book, she talked about the issue of passing. And so when people can pass, do they choose to do that? Why do they choose to do that? Do they choose to do that to advance themselves or to help others? Or do they do that because they just don't want to live that life anymore? So she kind of like, indirectly, like when we were talking about it, it talked about those aspects. So in taking on that and taking on this story, the author didn't feel the need to kind of just hit us over the head with a bunch of brutality. And when we talked to the author, which was really great, when we talked with the author, she also talked about how she thought of Roots and Django and many other more contemporary movies where the brutality is, or 12 Days a Slave, that one she didn't mention, but the brutality in these movies and how it is traumatizing. Although we want to know this aspect of history and we want to make sure it's in the books and in movies, it is not the only story. There are it's a multifaceted, multidimensional thing. So it is really good to see something that doesn't necessarily always include it, but still, it's not sugarcoating it in any way. Okay, so that was one of the things that I had to struggle with, kind of, because I've been conditioned to always think also that when you're going to get one of those stories, it's going to have that kind of punch, So I thought the book was really done really well. We all talked about how it kind of just flowed along, that her writing is really beautiful. I really appreciated her candor and really being open with us when we asked her questions and talked about it. She was very forthcoming about a lot of things, and it was just so good. And I'm here for her to read the next book that she writes, because I think that I have a lot more respect also for her after talking with her. And I also watch myself every time I talk with an author and we get into discussion, how my experience with the book evolves, it changes, and I think about it differently, and I go back and think. Usually after a discussion, I still think about things that we talk about. So I thought it was a really great book, and we had a great discussion. So that was one of the big ones that occurred. Now, another one that I got, this one here, I'm going to go out of order, but this one here is one I got from the library, and it's called Weightless: Making Space for My Resilient Body and Soul by Yvette Dion. And she's also the author of Lifting as We Climb, which I didn't read as well. This one was just by chance. I saw it, like I told you all before, and I picked it up and I started to read it. And I think that I have marked a couple things here too. Oh, yeah, I'll read that to you guys too. It appealed to me because I think about how we as women really are our worst enemies in terms of our self-talk about, you know, our bodies and how we feel about the shit, you know, how big or small we are, and we're never really quite satisfied with ourselves, and how we know that the media kind of, you know, puts on a pedestal a certain body type, and makes everybody else kind of feel out. So she talked about a lot of things in here. Let me see one thing here if I can. Like, this is a quote that I thought was interesting too. You know, she's talking about herself as she was in junior high, and she started to develop and get breasts and get bigger quicker than the other girls. And she said, I had to pay a price for the literal amount of space I took up in the world, and the penalties rained down. And it goes on, and she talks about these different instances of things that had happened to her, and how people would violate her space at that time, and not feel like, you know, when you're a bigger person, people don't necessarily feel, people can tend to violate your space and feel it's okay, more so than they might somebody that's smaller. Let's see, she said, instead, Weightless is an excavation of a culture that hates fat people and uses institutions, including media, medicine, and marriage, to reinforce that repulsion. Whether it's Netflix greenlighting a television show that glorifies losing weight as a form of revenge, or airlines enacting policies that purposefully discriminate against fat people, the world believes that we must assimilate and become smaller, not that it should become bigger to accommodate us. It's a book designed to shift how we individually and collectively understand the fat experience. Most important, it's a book for fellow fat people who want and need and deserve new stories. And so she talks about what she calls fat phobia. And one of the things, like, she had talked about in there, which I thought was really interesting, is that, you know, the American population is getting bigger and bigger, and yet airlines are making their seats smaller and smaller. And I wasn't aware, but if you can't put your armrest down, then you have to pay for 2 seats. And I just can't imagine having to travel and having to pay for 2 seats to go somewhere. So that means for a round trip ticket, you're paying for 4 seats. I mean, what? So it's like when you aren't necessarily in that group, you're unaware of all of the things that that occur, that, you know, are so painful, and a slap in the face, and a reminder of the exclusionary ways that society can be with regards to appearance and weight. The other thing she talked about was, you know, where's the other one? Yeah, this is really good. I've marked a lot of stuff in here. Wow. She went and broke down like a lot of like historical things and put them in here as well. I see, if I had sat down and like went through these, when I go through to do the review, I'm going to put some of these in here, and I would have had them to read to you, but I don't know, like, off the hand exactly where they were, because this isn't my book, so I didn't underline. I just put a flag kind of in the general area of where it was, that were there. But it was also interesting to watch her. She kind of does it's a memoir, so you see her, she's growing up and learning how to live in this body and how people respond to her. But she also recognized her own bias, that had been influenced by the media, in the sense that in here she had a relationship with a gentleman that was large, and at one intimate moment she started to get repulsed by looking at him, and she felt bad, like, why should I feel that way for him, and I don't want him to feel that way about me. And so it just shows how you internalize some of these horrible biases and things that people feel. So it was a really good book. I very much enjoyed it. I read it, and then I listened probably about halfway through to the rest of it. I listened to the narration, and she, I believe, is the narrator of it. So it was actually really good to listen to her voice talking. But very good book. So gave you a lot of feeling and thought, and makes you think about how biased society is, you know. So The next one, we'll go eat this one next. This one, oh, this was really good. This was The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. And this one, I had read Christina's first debut novel, which is Wire. So this is her first foray into contemporary adult romance. And it was more than just like, when I think of romances, and that's not a knock, but sometimes, like we think of the old romances where it was just, kind of shallow stories, with no meat to it. This had a really good story, and it follows a girl named Lily who is working in the publishing industry. She wants to work as a children's publishing industry, but she's not there yet. And she's got a horrible boss that she's working for right now. And she loves to read books, but her job is to help edit. But she also loves and enjoys books. And one of her favorite books is written by this gentleman, and in a I can't remember exactly how she does it, or what spawned it, but she sent an email to ask this author, because there was rumors that the author had died that had written this book. She was like, she wanted to let the author know that she loved that book and wanted more and what happened and blah, blah, blah. And it turned into an online kind of romance. Like, they first started out as friends, like talking back and forth, and then they realized they had feelings. And then I can't say because there's some things in here, like little twists that happen, but it is a good story. It's not light and too fluffy. It was very fun and enjoyable, but it had some really great moments in it. So I am really happy. I think she did a great job. I think she could definitely stay in the adult realm if she would like to, or she wants to continue to do both. She can do that as well. But this is really fun. If you're looking for a summer book to read on the beach, this would be great for a beach read, because it just draws you in, and it was really good. So I very much enjoyed that one. So the next one, is, and I wrote no notes for this one either yet. Right? No. I got it all lined up, but I haven't written the one. But this one's called Dust Child by Nguyen Bang Khe Ma. I don't know. It could be Juyen Fang Khe Ma Mai. And this is a gorgeous cover. Remember, I told you this one. This one is really good. So you're following, so I'll tell you. So there's Trang and Quinn, who are sisters, and they live in this rural village. And their parents I think they are like rice farmers or something like that. I could be wrong. I can't remember exactly what they do. Anyway, they've fallen on hard times, and their father, who is the one that usually brings in the money, is ill and no longer able to sustain. So the two sisters decide that they are going to go into oh my God, I'm losing it, Saigon, to find work so that they can help their parents, right? So you're following the storyline with them. Then at the same time, you meet this character called Phong. And Phong is he is a mixed race child who's been abandoned by his American father and his Vietnamese mother, but the Vietnamese mother left him at an orphanage. So he knows nothing about either of his parents. And he's raised by a nun at this orphanage. And you follow his storyline. And then the other one is Dan, who's a former American helicopter pilot who's struggling with kind of PTSD. And this is many years later, but he's also, he's married now, but he's feeling a level of guilt of leaving behind a Vietnamese woman who was pregnant with his child. So you're following him coming back for the first time to Vietnam, secretly desiring to, I don't think you can say right the wrong, but to find out what happened to this woman and the child. And then the stories Oh, they're so good. They're so good. Some, they kind of overlap at a certain point. But it is read this. It's really a good book. There's just so much it makes you think about. It makes you think about, like, I didn't know all of the facts in here about, typically they call them Amerasian children that were abandoned. Like what happens to them there, because it's not just a matter of, okay, well, they all go into orphanages and they have a, not the greatest life, but they have hard lives. They're treated, this is called Dust Child, as a translation of, of what they call, they have a name for these children, and they treat them as the lowest class, and they're hard to get jobs, any quality jobs, hard for them to get housing. People don't want to, marry them. And they're treated really poorly. And some of them were able to go back to the United States, but many of them did not. And so they are left with the pieces of trying to figure out how to, survive and live after that. So you have that. But then on the Trang and Quynh, the sisters, you see the struggles of how war has ravaged the population there, and how people are affected by of the war, and how they are forced to do things that they would not normally do, because the daughters then become, the daughters then have to make choices on what they can do to make money. I'm trying not to spoil the book. And then the other thing that I thought about, there's one other thing I was going to tell you guys about this, because now I'm definitely going to go back and read The Mountains Sing, which is the backlist for this. That was the debut novel, I think, for this author, and there was a big buzz, and I wanted to read it, just didn't get it. But now I'm like, I'm all over it, because I really, really enjoyed this one. Oh, I know. Here's one of the things. So that I thought about after reading the book. So if you have these GIs that come, some of them are married and they sleep with the women. Sometimes they are consensual, sometimes they aren't consensual. They impregnate some of the women, and the women have children. They leave, and they can come back, right? So the book kind of, it was a little bit, but it was enough for me to think about it. The assumption when Dan comes back, there's a guide that is helping him and his wife get around and translating and helping them see the sights. He doesn't know that Dan is there also to look for this woman that he had a relationship with. And there's big assumptions on Dan's part about the people there, which the book just flips your mind about it, because Dan is, even though he was part of some of the atrocities that occurred in that country, he can come back and people will take his money, and he can stay at these great hotels, and he can come in and be kind of, I don't want to say the hero, but they're not, nobody's throwing shade at them, right? At least to their face. And but these people that are living there, the children left behind, the women that were involved with them, the consequences of what has happened to them, and the men that are there that were Vietnamese that fought there as well, are not treated as highly as these American soldiers even when they come back now. So it just makes you think about war, and how it just goes and trickles through the whole society, and what it creates and what it does. I love this. It was really, really, really good. Just read it. I know I always say that. I don't think that I could recommend it and you wouldn't find this book very interesting and really well written. I'm all for The Mountain Sings, and I might even get to it this year. That's how much I think that I really am, especially even when I was sitting here talking and thinking about it and my emotions while I was reading it. Yeah, good book. I had some good reads this month. So now it comes time for me to fess up the things that I did not get to. I already told you, and I thought very highly of myself. I thought that I was going to finish this past weekend. No, didn't happen. Didn't happen. No. I can't even remember exactly why. Other than I had book club one day, and that took a couple of time, but I had time. This is a small book. It's just, I don't know. I just haven't. I started this. I am trying to finish it this month though, because I do want to get, this will also fulfill my my black male authors. This will also fulfill, I think this was also on my cart. So that's a twofer. Gotta finish it, and my black classics. So that's 3 actually things that this could cover. So I do want to finish this one. I didn't. And then the other one that I didn't finish was, and I need it. I need this right now. It's Grow Your Soil. I started it and I'm like all into it, like highlighting, and really interesting. Some of the things I'm going to try this year in my own yard, and some of them I'm going to have to try next year because I already, committed to some other processes but it's just stuff that I want to learn and understand better. Even in here, like here it talks about, which I think is really fascinating. It talks about testing your soil and, what do those things mean? What do the results of the test mean, and what do you want to do, and what plants require X. So it's a good book. It's a really good book, and I'm gonna go further on it. So that one, I didn't hold it up good for you. It's called Grow Your Soil. I cannot talk today. Harness the power of the soil food web to create your best garden ever, by Diane Messler, and it's a foreword by Elaine R. Ingham. But this is gonna get finished. I don't know why I haven't finished it yet. I have already started my new books for this month. Not going to talk to you about it because I'm going to make another video to tell you what I'm talking about, what I'm going to be reading for this month. I also have, I think it's either this month or next month, I will do another book haul video for 2 months of book purchases, because I have been buying some ebooks, and I had to buy the book for this month's book club book. And because I wanted to get free shipping, I ordered a couple more through Thrift Books. So I have some books that are from there. I have a pre-order I had ordered. I have some books that I got for Independent Bookstore Day. So I have I'm going to get all together so it'll just be all in one video. And then I think out how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it every time I buy a book. I'll just kind of do it in groups, a couple months or something like that, whenever it warrants. I know I'll probably buy books next month because June is my birthday month, and I love to get books on my birthday month. So but anyway, I've read those. Let me know if you guys read any of these, or if you think you're going to read some, because I'm telling you, get your summer read on, learn about, if you aren't somebody that's of larger stature, learn about what we do and how, because the more that we all learn, the better we are able to change laws and be conscious of our own biases that we don't really always realize that we have. So awesome. This one is just so good. It's really, really well written. Just brings you right in there. You're there. You have empathy for the characters. The story is never dull. It doesn't lag. It just pulls you forward, and you're very curious to find out how the stories tie together. And then the last one was oh my God, did it open it? Yeah. And then the last one was The Wild, Beautiful, and Free. This would give you an opportunity to read a book that talks about enslaved people, and the option and people that were passing, but also it's not a traumatic one, so you don't have to be afraid of a huge box of tears, and because sometimes I've read books that are like that and they're very traumatic, and I just close it and I have to sit and I'll come back in a little bit. I know I did that a lot in Isabel Wilkerson's book. I've done that in the one I loved last year, which was what was that called? Where he went through the different states of different locations of plantations and things. What the heck was that book called? That one I had to stop every now and then, especially when they got to the prison and how the people were treated in the prison. I just had to put it down and walk away for a little while and come back. So yeah, this book, if you want to read one that's not that, and it is, really beautiful writing. Oh God, I lost the cover again. Beautiful writing, and it doesn't, so good with this thing. That doesn't, doesn't have that kind of trauma. That's a good book to pick up. So overall, I had a really great reading month. I'm proud of myself because I've read 4 books, which is not usually always the case with me. And I usually try not to mention the number, which I just did. But I had other books that I wanted to read, and I still am going to try to get to these other 2 in the midst of what I'm trying to read this month. Let me know what you guys are reading. Have a wonderful weekend, and I won't talk about anything else because I've already taken up too much time, and I will talk to you guys soon. My next video will be my TBR for this month, so you'll know what I'm reading. Let me know what you're reading, and have a lovely weekend. Bye.